Variants. This is a topic that it comes up all the time. I'm not really, we're not breaking new ground. This is more so for people who don't already have some level of understanding of how the variants work in Star Citizen. It's not going to tell you everything you need to know. This is just what I know and what I've seen. And what chat's seen. Y'all are going to help, right, chat? Come on. You guys are pretty good at that. But there was a thread on Reddit where somebody was talking about this, and this comes up because of the release upcoming of the Asgard, shown in ISC, to be pretty similar looking to the Valkyrie. I mean, I did literally look at it and be like, hey, it's a Valkyrie with a couple of changes. And like from the exterior, yes, that is the case, but we'll take a little bit of a deeper look at this through some of the things people have posted to see that like this ship is built a little different from a Valkyrie, and it's not necessarily always the right choice to create a direct variant or a modular ship. Does that mean they should have made a completely different ship to do this? I would have loved to seen the Liberator. That would have been real nice. Making something that was already known would have been great, but they've done this. So here's the post. CIG, if you made a ship years ago that is now underperforming in its role, is not fit for the current scope or scale of the game, or lacks relevancy in the gameplay you envision now, update it. Make wholesale changes to the hull, rip out the weapons and components for better or different results. But I repeat, don't keep releasing new ships at a fresh cost to the player. I'm talking about the Valkyrie Asgard leaks and also the Hornet Mark IIs. Alright, I gotta say first, you don't have to buy ships, folks. Don't buy the ships. That's my number one advice. It's a lot better. Just life is so much better for you if you don't buy the ships. Now, of course, that also means that the game doesn't get funded as much. But like, if you come at it from the perspective of you're not going to buy ships, then when something really impresses you, maybe you are encouraged to spend money. Maybe that helps CIG just like do things that you want anyways. Either way though, I also hear what he's saying in terms of some of the other ships in the game. Like, I don't think it's really a Valkyrie thing, but I do think there are definitely situations like the Valkyrie coming in. No, it wasn't the Valkyrie coming in. What ship was it that came in and kind of invalidated the Redeemer? Was it the Valkyrie? Because the Redeemer was kind of going to be a drop ship, then it came into the game and it wasn't a drop ship because it ended up being a gunship because they designed it to be a little bit differently, so they added the Valkyrie to the game instead of just fixing the Redeemer. Was it the Paladin? Well, they're bringing the Paladin now to relieve the Redeemer of the role it was going to have. But originally, it was supposed to have even a different role than it currently has, as far as I'm aware. I don't know. It's a confusing story. But I agree with him that they should like not fix vehicles, or they should fix vehicles rather than creating a new vehicle to handle the job that the original vehicle was supposed to do anyways. But the Valkyrie is definitely a dropship, and the Asgard is very much a vehicle transport. I think is the biggest thing that they're trying to do, and it's an easy way to do it. It's no doubt this is a more affordable way to create a vehicle transport that's going to make them good money than it would be to create an entirely new model or a whole new chassis. And that's, I think, an interesting conversation, is if they're going to make a vehicle transport and they want it to come from Anvil, should they create an entirely new model, or should they use an existing one and then change it up a little bit to be a sort of offshoot of the other one? As long as it's not something that's literally the same chassis, just sold for something different. Because this is not something that they're doing for the first time here. You can scroll back through their own YouTube releases. It's easier with the videos. Actually, don't have to do that. We can just go to the ship commercials, and you will find the Saber Peregrine. This is just a variant of the Saber Firebird, which is a variant of the Saber Raven, which is a variant of the Saber. But all of them do have like different bodies and different styles and designs, so you can't just throw a paint on one and call it a variant. It's not like the Mustang variants. But there's also other ships like this. The Fortune is like that as well. It's the Prospector model, changed slightly to be able to do something different coming from the same company. And the Terrapin Medical came in and it looks a lot like the Terrapin. That one is actually probably the closest, I would say, direct one-to-one sort of variant vehicle. And honestly, the most annoying part of that is that they didn't update the old Terrapin when they brought that one in. I think it's okay if you do that, but yeah, if you're dropping these in and you're not updating the old model, then there's going to be a problem, and they need to stop doing that. So the Valkyrie did get some updates recently, right? It just got its cargo capacity boosted. And I think it got some additional weapons to the pilot. So it's not like they aren't updating this, as he said. It's just that they are bringing in another ship that looks very similar to this one. But I think there are some pictures. Whoops. Nope, I wasn't done with that. I think there are some pictures around the subreddit of the interior of the ship. Now, these are potentially leaks. So if you don't want to see them, don't look. This is just, I don't know if this is from the PTU or what. This might just be a render that somebody made based off of what we saw. But you can see that it's basically the same silhouette besides like the thruster placement changes. You know, it's not too much of a different ship. Definitely could call it a variant. Just the wing positions mostly, but the Asgard is a little bit longer, it looks like. Now you can fit much larger vehicles into the Asgard, and you simply can't do that on the Valkyrie. You can't do this on a lot of ships, and I do think this does make the ship a little bit more what's the word? Valuable, because it's a unique cost. There's nothing else in the game right now that's this small that can carry a lot of or really big vehicles like these. So I do think that there's something to be said about this being a unique model. There is also the fact that the Valkyrie is a dedicated dropship with those drop seats, which right now don't matter. And as he said, he's talking about the game right now. But as we go further and further into the game, the difference between a vehicle bay and drop seats will be more different because drop seats will matter. So I get this conversation, what he's saying about this, especially with some ships. But I think it's more about like just update the old ships rather than don't release these new ones, because the new ones still need to be unique. And as long as they're unique, they're good. But if they're not, then you're starting to run into the useless reason to release ships. And you know what that sounds like? The Rock DS. A little bit. Sounds a little like that. He said, as a 10-year backer, the stuff I bought all those years ago is at risk of being outdated. I don't have the money or the time to buy all my old ships again, but different to remain relevant to the current game. The state of things as they were then was so much different, and you are choosing here to milk money out of me to get something that the existing ship should be able to do. No, that doesn't, I don't agree with that. The scale has changed, and a Storm should be able to fit in a Valkyrie, and the internal space is wasted, but I digress. But instead of just making it slightly bigger or doing a gold pass, you release an entirely new ship to fit the already niche fulfilled by the Valkyrie. Why money? Let's see. I don't know if the Valkyrie was ever sold as being a vehicle transport. Heavy drop ship designed to safely deploy up to 20 armed troops along with a single vehicle into a combat zone armed with multiple turrets. It's a single vehicle part, yeah. I mean, if you can't fit larger vehicles in it, that's one thing. But I don't think it doesn't really make sense to change ships to fit another role. I don't know. Like, it's a drop ship for people mainly, and you can still fit vehicles in it. Like, you could fit a Cyclone in here, yeah? Cyclone and Ursa. Yeah, I mean, if it's still giving these possibilities. I don't think this is bigger doors, dude. I think the ship itself is larger. But they haven't released their video on it. They've got the opportunity to release it inside the ships, and they'll tell us how it's different. We are only seeing what we saw in ISC. I don't know. I don't think that's a reasonable reason to, like, you can't just say, hey, the Valkyrie needs to be made bigger to fit more things. Maybe ask for more small ships or more small vehicles to fit inside of the ship that he already has. But having your vehicle changed to fit, man, I don't know. What do you think? Comment in the comments down below. I will, out of due diligence, I will give him the rest of his post to talk. I worry about the precedent this sets. Are the devs happy with making old assets outdated? We saw this with the Hornet. They could have done a refresh of the design and gave players the old model as maybe a separate hangar item or ship. Instead, they used it as a money-making campaign, invalidating those player purchases, and they are doing it again with the Asgard. That is definitively wrong, but I'll show you why in a minute. I wish they would just give me an update with the Gold Pass and not charge me another $300 for the same gameplay loop in an identical hull. Yeah, you lose your argument with statements like that. It's not the same gameplay. I mean, I don't even think the Asgard has seats in it besides the pilot seat and maybe a couple service seats. It's going to be these are going to be different ships for different things. The Valkyrie is the my life. I love the hybrid dropship gunship role, and I know there are many of us. Please show your old work the love of the current era of the game and don't consign it and us to obscurity just to make money. It's lazy and it's getting old. I actually think the Valkyrie is going to be a more valuable ship than the Asgard if the Asgard doesn't come with extra seats on it. But we'll have to see. Now, he keeps mentioning the Mark II and the Hornet and this whole thing about how they're doing the same thing with it. They're not. We've gone over this before, but we'll include it here just because it makes sense for this conversation. The Hornet Mark II is a design that was actually completed like 8 years ago. It was always meant to be a part of this game because in Squadron 42, the Hornet Mark I is outdated and replaced by the Mark II. It's like part of the lore. The Mark II was made for the military. It was withheld from the PU as the Mark II so it could come in and be its own separate model of ships. It's not necessarily the fact that it happened that is bad. It's the way they did it that isn't really great. I agree. They probably should have given the people who had a Mark I at least a heavily discounted upgrade, if not a free one. But it's certainly not the same as the Asgard. It's not the same as any of these other ships. People keep talking about a Constellation Mark II and all this stuff. I'm not saying those things won't happen, but none of those are happening because of the same reason the Hornet did or the Zeus, which are the only Mark II ships in the game right now. So as far as we know, Mark II ships are not planned for these other models. This is just a variant of a ship that looks a lot like a ship, but has a slightly different role. Here is the actual audio and video from CIG talking about this very thing with their Hornet.
Hey guys, not too long ago, I received the awesome task of creating the new Hornet F7A ship, which will be featured in Squadron 42. I recently got done with the modeling and texturing portion of the ship build, and I would like to show you guys the process on how we created the all-new Hornet F7A. The original Hornet F7A Mk1 was created by CGBot and it was used in the first pitch video by Chris Roberts. The F7A is going to be featured in Squadron 42, so naturally we were looking to do a complete update for the Hornet, since the mesh being used in the game as of now is still essentially the old CGBot model from 4 years ago. The idea here was to keep the original Hornet F7 Mk1 series in the game, and then add the F7A Mk2 model completely new from the ground up with our latest techniques and pipeline procedures.
So this was like, yeah, it's weird, but it's a different scenario. And again, there's no reason to say that Mark IIs won't happen for other ships, but none of them are happening in the same way that this model is with the Hornets. And that's how the cookie crumbles. I think the last bit I have here is a little discussion about how variants work.
Last ship update, Constellation. Constellation is getting a little old in the tooth compared to a lot of the other ships.
No, this is 2022.
It's one of Star Citizen's signature ships. Any joy? Anything you can tell us?
What I'm hearing is people love struts and they want more struts in the cockpit to obscure view. Yep, like gold standard on all the other ships. When we get to the Constellation, a big thing for it will be putting the components in. That people will see there are component bays in there already. They were done a long time ago. Components have changed in how they are used, the quantities, even some of the sizes of them, which shows you how old it is. I think somewhere it says it's got 2 quantum drives if you go look at all the hatches in there. So we'll be going through and ripping all those out, putting proper ones in, which will necessitate other interior changes. So we'll collect everything up in one big pass and do a big pass across the interior. Not going to say it's going to look wildly different. It's got a very key art style that we want to keep. We do want to do something about the struts on the bridge. We had planned to do that with the Taurus, but instead what we'd done is we spent the extra time we had available to us on the pilot seat, which is why you see it has all the buttons and flip up Polo displays now, which benefits all of them. We'd hoped we could reduce some of those struts in the forward view. At the same time, we just sadly didn't have time. And that would have only fixed 2 or 3 out of the variants. We wouldn't have time to do the Aquila as well. So when we get to gold standard, we'll sort them all out. So they're all have a good view out the front. It's still gonna have struts, like the Carrack has struts, but we'll try and get rid of those particularly annoying ones that are through the center view.
Okay.
So when you hear people talk about a Constellation Mark II, just point them towards this video. They still got an update due for the Constellation, specifically on the interior, moving components around, getting rid of struts, doing all that stuff. They're gonna update the Constellation series, so sit tight. There's your look at Mark II's variants, ships, how they might change from one another, and hopefully that helps you make some sense of it.